anyone yesterday who was more observant than I was would have calculated that advancing time 1 hour when we had entered the secret door right at the very beginning of the stream, wouldn't that mean that 23 more hours that the door would open before the stream? Okay, but if you look at the time now, technically, if that was done correctly, the time should be 22 hours. We're at 21 hours. So somehow, we didn't just dream with the shade, but we dreamed twice. And we're 2 hours off. Well, 3 hours off, technically, because we didn't need to do that to begin with. Right. So, we're stuck. Yes, Shade. I think we should return to our home. To your home. It's not my home, it's yours. But we can't. So, what I'm going to do to make up for it is we're just going to let the Shade sit here and dream all the dreams he wants to dream until it's midnight, until it's tomorrow. And then I'm going to get the Shade the heck out of here and never again return. Yeah, I have no reason to ever again return. So, that's going to take several hours. That's something that I'm going to be doing off stream. And I'm going to get the Shade out of the room. And then I guess we'll run the Shade home. Or we'll just have him sit outside the door. Whatever, as long as we're outside. So that way, when we stream tomorrow, we will be outside. So that gives us some free time to do whatever we want today. We could easily read more, but, you know, I have another idea. This is something I had pondered, and I figured it would be better to share it after we're done with the game, because it's kind of material that doesn't happen in the game. And this is a lore play. You know, we're talking about lore of the longing. We're not talking about other fun and interesting things that don't belong to the game. But I think with today, with all the mistakes and stuff, we're going to make an exception. So what we have is this video. This is a video also done by, maybe butchering his name, but Anselm Pyta. He's the developer for The Longing. And he created this. It's a pilot episode to a series that he wanted to create. There are a few details in this animation that relate to some of the drawings that the Shade has. I can think of 3, but we're going to watch through it. I'm not going to interrupt it. And we'll come back through and look at and point out like the little individual pieces and compare that to some of the pictures that the Shade can draw.
Die Welt ist in das Geheimnis des Anfangs getaucht.
Right. Some of us probably can't understand that. So I have a solution.
Doch ach, aller Anfang wird zermalmt vom Grauen der Zeit. Wahrlich, traurig sind die Dinge.
Right. There we go.
Die Welt ist in das Geheimnis des Anfangs getaucht. Doch ach, aller Anfang wird zermalmt vom Grauen der Zeit. Wahrlich, traurig sind die Dinge, die kein Geheimnis haben.
This game, you're not ready for.
Wie gefällt dir das? Weit von hier liegt ein großes Rapsfeld. Es blüht prächtig in schillerndem Gold zu jeder Jahreszeit, gewaltig und unbarmherzig. Und doch verblasst meine Erinnerung an die Zeit, als ich noch in euch wanderte. Ihr Felder von Raps.
Ich hoffe, ihr entschuldigt meine Verspätung. Wie ich sehe, wartet ihr schon lange auf mich. Ja, ich dachte, zur Entschädigung erzähle ich euch eine kleine Geschichte. Ja, sie ist recht klein, aber dennoch. Hört zu. Es war ein Tag vor nicht allzu langer Zeit.
Nicht weit von hier blüht ein großes Rapsfeld. Doch es blüht nur für kurze Zeit und schon bald erlischt seine goldene Pracht. Doch ein letztes Mal wollen wir noch tanzen in Feldern voll Raps.
Obviously, there's a lot of similarities, right? In the drawing style, just the faces. When our shade is happy, it looks a lot like that character. When he is happy, the slow walking, the even the house, eating stones. Our shade has commented that when he's bored, he likes to eat stones. I think. Let me pull up some pictures and we can do a little comparison. This does mean I'm gonna kind of have to leave the game. That's fine. Well, no, the game won't be close. It should be okay. Somebody has commented that because that character ate a stone in the shade, when he has these moments where he's pondering to himself that he's bored, sometimes when he's bored, he likes to eat stones. That they're saying, with the idea that the shade is living another life and they both have this long nose. It's not unique, though, to that character. That small girl, she also has a long nose. But they wanted to say this was who the shade was before. And he is the shade that lived up on the surface because the buildings are similar. Actually, we can do that. Let me find a picture of the house. Here. And let's get the video back up. I don't want to cover the other spot. There's a reason. Okay, fixed it. But the little smile as well. When our shade smiles, he smiles in a very similar way. Yellow eyes. Okay, but yellow eyes are not unique to this character. Okay, I want to show that guy, but not yet. I wanted to see, yes, here it is. The house. So somebody pointed out the little dream pipe that we can see here in the background and the house with the little door. It's the same house. Oh my God, revelation. It's the same artist. It's not the same house. You know, people, when they draw on a style, they learn and adapt to using that same style. I feel like this is the same multiverse that these stories take place on. But that's it. It's not the same house. Okay. I want to show off this guy. It's a different picture I want to share. Let's move view. Work. The curtains, you may have noticed, we'll come back to the curtains actually. I like the moment that we're frozen on. There. The hermit. That is very painful resemblance. Is it not? Granted, the hermit in our image, he's got a bit of a beard going on. But if we jump forward to right before he enters. There, the blue eyes. Come on, look at it. Do you see it? He's the hermit. So you might wonder, he seems to be like a character representing death. So why does the Shade know who this character is? The way I interpret it is not because this character is the Shade himself, because the Shade doesn't recall anything of this person or this image of this person, but that the hermit is a common theme in this sort of multiverse. You know, this is something I've noticed with other developers. When we write a story, we tend to build other characters in that same realm, that same world. We're not going to build a whole new world just for another story. We can tell multiple stories in that same multiverse. So this hermit would be sort of a recurring theme, this character of perhaps death. And it makes sense that our Shade would understand this because the Shade is part of this same multiverse. Doesn't necessarily mean he's this same person as this other character. Yeah, she also has big beady eyes like her Shade and a beaky nose, but that's just the artist's style. But here, the big fields. Oh, there's the curtains. Yeah, let's jump to that. Curtains. Do you see what I mean with writing style? It's just similar. Drawing style. There, rapeseed. And this animation bearing the same name. There's no figure in the small painting version that the Shade draws, but it does absolutely resemble it. And when we had first looked at the images, wondering, what is rapeseed? What does this have to do with this game? It doesn't. It's just a connection to some of their other works. And that's normal for artists to do things like that. And there's one other image, and that's just of a field itself. Is it just... fields. Yep. Just yellow. So there's our fields. That's it. It's just some fun crossover from the animation to the game. Oh. Apparently that did cause the Shade to wake up. Oh well. It's fine. I'm going to hang out with the Shade for most of the day, and he's going to get a lot of sleep. I might not get as much. Because I'm going to keep an eye on him. I'm going to make sure he leaves this cave. But that was a pilot episode for what the developer wanted to be a small series. And the series was going to be quite depressing. I don't know. Maybe he just didn't pitch it to the right people and didn't get funding. Perhaps other real life things took over and they became more of a focus. I don't know the details, but I do know that that series didn't happen. It's unfortunate. But if you look on YouTube, the developer has done a few other animations and such. That one was on a different channel, and you won't find it under the developer's name. That was a YouTuber who just has a lot of interesting animations, and it has focuses on specific artists and such. But the one we see there is it's just a one shot. Okay, switching to, I guess we'll do some reading. There it is. Chapter 60, The Seven Seals. Or the yeah and amen lay. Weird words. I'm gonna grab a drink. Okay. 1. If I be a diviner, and full of the divining spirit, which wandereth on high mountain ridges, twixt two seas, wandereth, twixt the past and the future, as a heavy cloud, hostile to sultry plains, and to all that is weary, and can neither die nor live, ready for lightning in its own dark bosom, and for the redeeming flash of light, charged with lightnings which say yea, which laugh yea, ready for divining flashes of lightning. Blessed, however, is he who is thus charged, and verily, long must he hang like a heavy tempest on the mountain, who shall one day kindle the light of the future. How could I not be ardent for eternity, and for the marriage ring of rings, the ring of return? Never yet have I found the woman by whom I should like to have children, unless it be this woman whom I love. For I love thee, O eternity. For I love thee, O eternity. 2. If ever my wrath hast burst graves, shifted landmarks, or rolled old shattered tables into precipitous depths, if ever my scorn hath scattered mouldered words to the wind, and if I have come like a besom to cross spiders, and as a cleansing wind to old charnel houses, if ever I have sat rejoicing where old gods lie buried, world-blessing, world-loving, beside the monuments of old-world maligners. For even churches and gods' graves do I love. If only heaven looketh through their ruined roofs with pure eyes, gladly do I sit like grass and red poppies on ruined churches. How can I not be ardent for eternity, and for the marriage ring of rings, the ring of return? Never yet have I found the woman by which I should like to have children, unless it be this woman whom I love. For I love thee, O eternity. Wait, I must have just started rereading. No, it repeats. I see. If ever a breath had come to me, of the creative breath, and of the heavenly necessity which compelleth even chances to dance, star dances, if ever I have laughed with the laughter of the creative lightning, to which the long thunder of the deed followeth, grumblingly but obediently, if ever I have played dice with the gods, at the divine table of the earth, so that the earth quaked and ruptured and snorted forth fire streams. For a divine table is the earth, and trembling with new creative dictums and dice casts of the gods. How could I not be ardent for eternity, and for the marriage ring of rings, the ring of return? Never yet have I found the woman by whom I should like to have children, unless it be this woman whom I love, for I love thee, O eternity. If ever I have drank a full draught of the foaming spice, and confection bowl, in which all things are well mixed, if ever my hand hath mingled the furthest with the nearest, fire with spirit, joy with sorrow, and the harshest with the kindest, if I myself am a grain of the saving salt, which maketh everything in the confection bowl mix well, there is a salt which uniteth good with evil, and even the evilest is worthy, as spicing, and as final over-foaming. How could I not be ardent for eternity, for the marriage ring of rings, the ring of the return? Yet never have I found the woman by whom I should like to have children, unless it be this woman whom I love, for I love thee, O eternity. I'm noticing some patterns with some of his words. Earlier he was sharing about a ring of time, and that all things, it's like a reincarnation he's talking about, where all things will die and live again. And it's not the same thing, but a different thing, but it's still the same eternal repeating of things. So if he's in love with eternity, what is he making as his children? That's the question that comes to mind. And it seems to be that, well, his children will be that of mankind. And he's calling himself like the salt, which brings things together, that his wisdom, his knowledge is going to be this salt. Well, him being the salt, that wisdom is just going to bring this eternal loop to some fruition, it's going to mix. Like if you have a ring, put it on its side, it's like a bowl, this spinning bowl, a mixing bowl, right? And he's just picturing that what he is this dash of spice that just brings it all together and gives it purpose, gives it meaning. That seems to be what he's aiming for. If I be fond of the sea, and all that is sea-like, and fondest of it when it angrily contradicteth me, if the exploring delight be in me, which impelleth cells to the undiscovered, if the seafarer's delight be in my delight, if ever my rejoicing hath called out, the shore hath vanished, now hath fallen from me the last chain, the boundless roareth around me, far away sparkle for me space and time. Well, cheer up, old heart. How could I not be ardent for eternity, and for the marriage ring of rings, the ring of the return? Never yet have I found the woman by whom I should like to have children, unless it be this woman whom I love, for I love thee, O eternity. If my virtue be of dancer's virtue, and if I have often sprung with both feet unto golden emerald rapture, if my wickedness be a laughing wickedness, at home among rose banks and hedges of lilies, for in laughter is all evil present, if it is sanctified and absolved by its own bliss, and if it be my Alpha and Omega, that everything heavy shall become light, every body a dancer, and every spirit a bird, and verily, that is my Alpha and Omega. How could I not be ardent for eternity, and for the marriage ring of rings, the ring of the return? Never yet have I found the woman by whom I should like to have children, unless it be this woman whom I love, for I love thee, O eternity. If ever I have spread out a tranquil heaven above me, and have flown into mine own heaven with mine own pinions, if I have swum playfully in profound luminous distances, and if my freedom's avian wisdom hath come to me, thus, however, speaketh avian wisdom, lo, is no above and no below. Throw thyself about, outward, backwards, in light one, seen, speak no more. Are not all words made for the heavy? Do not all words lie to the light ones? Seen, speak no more. How could I not be ardent for eternity, and for the marriage ring of rings, the ring of the return? Never yet have I found the woman by whom I should like to have children, unless it be this woman whom I love, for I love thee, O eternity. Avian wisdom. There is no above and no below. That's interesting because of that phrase that I've mentioned a few times, as above, so below. And that being, it's like a phrase, in this life, therefore also is so in the afterlife. Fourth and last part. Where in the world have there been greater follies than with the pitiful? And what in the world hath cost more suffering than the follies of the pitiful? Woe unto all loving ones who have not an elevation which there is above their pity. Thus spake the devil unto me once on a time, even God hath his hell, and it is his love for man. And lately did I hear him say these words, God is dead, and his pity for man hath God died. Of his pity for man hath God died. Zarathustra. 2. The pitiful. The second, I'm not sure how to read that. Chapter 61. The honey sacrifice. And again, passed moons and years over Zarathustra's soul, and he heeded it not. His hair, however, became white. One day, when he sat on a stone in front of his cave, and gazed calmly into the distance, one, there gazeth out on the sea, and away beyond sinuous abysses. Then went his animals thoughtfully round about him, and at last set themselves in front of him. O Zarathustra, said they, gazest thou out perhaps for thy happiness? Of which account is my happiness? Answered he. I have long ceased to strive any more for happiness. I strive for my work. O Zarathustra, said the animals once more, thou sayest thou art one who hath overmuch of good things. Liest thou not in a blue sky lake of happiness? Ye wags, answered Zarathustra, and smiled. How well did ye choose the simile? But ye know also that my happiness is heavy, and not like a fluid wave of water. It presseth me, and will not leave me, and is like molten pitch. And when his animals again thoughtfully around him, that read weirdly, but it was correct, and placed themselves once more in front of him. O Zarathustra, said they, it is consequently for that reason that thou thyself always becometh yellower and darker, although thy hair looketh white and flaxen. Lo, thou sittest in thy pitch. What do ye say, mine animals? Said Zarathustra, laughing. Verily, I reviled when I spake of pitch. As it happened with me, so it is with all fruits that turn ripe. It is the honey in my veins that maketh my blood thicker, and also my soul stiller. So will it be, O Zarathustra, answered his animals, and pressed up to him. But wilt thou not today ascend a high mountain? The air is pure, and today one seeth more of the world than ever. Yea, mine animals, answered he, ye counsel admirably, and according to my heart, I will today ascend a high mountain. See that honey is there, ready to hand, yellow, white, good, ice cool, golden comb honey. For know that when aloft, I will make the honey sacrifice. When Zarathustra, however, was aloft, on the summit, he sent his animals home that had accompanied him, and found that he was now alone. Then he laughed from the bottom of his heart, looked around him, and spake thus. That I spake of sacrifices and honey sacrifices, it was merely a ruse in talking, and verily a useful folly. Here aloft, can I now speak freer than in front of mountain caves and anchorites' domestic animals? What to sacrifice? I squander what is given me, a squanderer with 1,000 hands. How could I call that sacrificing? When I desired honey, I only desired bait, a sweet mucus and mucilage, for which even the mouths of growling bears and strange sulky evil birds water. The best bait, as huntsmen and fishermen require it, for if the world be as a gloomy forest of animals, and a pleasure ground for all wild huntsmen, it seemeth to me rather, and preferably, a fathomless, rich sea. A sea full of many-hued fishes and crabs, for which even the gods might long, and might be tempted to become fishers in it, and casters of nets. So rich is this world in wonderful things, great and small, especially the human world, the human sea. Towards it do I now throw out my golden angle rod and say, Open up, thou human abyss. Open up, and throw unto me thy fish and shining crabs. With my best bait shall I allure to myself today the strangest human fish. My happiness itself do I throw out into all places, far and wide, twixt Orient, noontide, and Occident, to see if many human fish will not learn to hug and tug at my happiness. Until biting at my sharp hidden hooks, they have to come up unto my height, and the motliest abyss groundlings to the wickedest of all fishers of men. For this am I from the heart and from the beginning, drawing, hither drawing, upward drawing, upbringing, a drawer, a trainer, a training master, who not in vain consoled himself once on a time, become what thou art. Thus may men now come up to me, for as yet do I await the signs that it is time for my down going, and yet do I not myself go down, as I must do amongst men. Therefore do I here wait, crafty and scornful upon high mountains, no patient one, rather one who hath even unlearnt patience, because he no longer suffereth. So he no longer has a longing. He doesn't have to be patient, because there's no suffering or longing of what he is waiting for. It's just simply, it's like not having an expectation for something, so he's not trying to bide his time towards something. It's just, there isn't any. He doesn't have a longing for this time when he will go down, I guess. Didn't he just say that, though? As yet do I not myself go down. That's all he says, but he doesn't suffer. He has no longing for doing so. For my fate giveth me time. It hath forgiven me perhaps, or doth it sit behind a big stone and catch flies? Verily, I am well disposed to mine eternal fate, because it doth not hound and hurry me, but leaveth me time for merriment and mischief, so that I have today ascended this high mountain to catch fish. Did ever anyone catch fish upon high mountains? And though it be a folly, what I here seek and do. It is better so than that down below I should become solemn with waiting, and green and yellow. A posturing wrath snorter with waiting, a holy howlstorm from the mountains, an impatient one that shouteth down into the valleys, hearken, else I will scourge you with the scourge of God. Not that I would have any grudge against such wrathful ones on that account. They are well enough for laughter to me. Impatient must they now be, those big alarm drums, which find a voice now or never. Myself, however, and my fate, we do not talk to the present, neither do we talk to the never. For talking, we have patience and time, and more than time. For one day must it yet come, and may not pass by. What must one day come, and may not pass by? Our great Hazar, that is to say, our great remote human kingdom, the Zarathustra kingdom of 1,000 years. How remote may such remoteness be? What doth it concern me? But on that account, it is none the less sure unto me. With both feet stand I secure on this ground, on an internal ground, on hard primary rock, on this highest, hardest primary mountain ridge, unto which all winds come, as unto the storm parting, asking where, and whence, and whither. Here, laugh, laugh, my hearty, healthy wickedness from high mountains, cast down thy glittering scorn laughter. Allure for me with thy glittering the finest human fish, and whatever belongeth unto me in all seas, me and for me in all things, fish that out for me, bring that up to me, for that do I want, the wickedest of all fish catchers. Out my fishing hook, in and down, thou bait of my happiness. Drip thy sweetest dew, thou honey of my heart. Bite my fishing hook into the belly of all black affliction. Look out, mine eye. Oh, how many seas round about me! What dawning human futures, and above me, what rosy red stillness, what unclouded silence. So he's become this sort of kind of mythological teacher who lives up in the mountains. And he doesn't come down because going down is his future destiny. It's not his current destiny. And he just wants to draw others in, to say, like, I'm happy up on this mountain. Is that not attractive? Is that not something that people will want to come and ask me? Why are you so happy? And that's what he wants, to have, I guess, new people to teach things to, without having to leave his mountain. And so he's trying to make some bait. I think he's just going out to these mountaintops and just laughing, kind of making a sort of spectacle, because he's not physically getting a fishing pole and trying to fish people from his heights. 62. The cry of distress. Roman numbers are weird because you have to, like, math them together. The next day sat Zarathustra again on the stone in front of his cave, while his animals roved around in the world outside to bring home some new food, also new honey, for Zarathustra had spent and wasted the old honey to the very last particle. When he thus sat, however, with the stick in his hand, tracing the shadow of his figure on the earth, and reflecting, verily, not upon himself and his shadow, all at once he startled and shrank back, for he saw another shadow beside his own, and when he hastily looked around and stood up, behold, there stood the soothsayer beside him, the same, who he had once given to eat and drink at his table, the proclaimer of the great weariness, who taught, all is alike, nothing is worth while, the world is without meaning, knowledge strangleth. But his face had changed since then, and when Zarathustra looked into his eyes, his heart was startled once more. So much evil announcement, and ashy gray lightnings passed over that countenance. The soothsayer, who had perceived what went on in Zarathustra's soul, wiped his face with his hand, as if he would wipe out the impression. The same did also Zarathustra, and when both of them had thus silently composed and straightened themselves, they gave each other the hand, as a token that they wanted once more to recognize each other. "Welcome hither," said Zarathustra, "thou soothsayer of the great weariness. Not in vain shall thou once have been my messmate and guest. Eat and drink also with me today, and forgive it that a cheerful old man sitteth with thee at table." "A cheerful old man," answered the soothsayer, shaking his head. "But whoever thou art, or wouldst be, O Zarathustra, thou hast been here aloft the longest time. In a little while thy bark shall no longer rest on dry land." "Do I then rest on dry land?" asked Zarathustra, laughing. "The waves around thy mountain," answered the soothsayer, "rise and rise. The waves of great distress and affliction, they will soon raise thy bark also and carry thee away." Thereupon was Zarathustra silent and wondered. "Dost thou still hear nothing?" continued the soothsayer. Doth it not rush and roar out of the depth?" Zarathustra was silent once more and listened. Then heard he a long, long cry, which the abysses threw to one another, and passed on, for none of them wished to retain it, so evil did it sound. "Thou ill announcer," said Zarathustra at last, "that is a cry of distress, and the cry of a man. The cry of a man. It may come perhaps out of a black sea, but what doth human distress matter to me? My last sin which hath been reserved for me, knowest thou what it is called?" "Pity," answered the soothsayer from an overflowing heart, and raised both his hands aloft. "Zarathustra, I have come that I may seduce thee to thy last sin." And hardly had those words been uttered, when there sounded the cry once more, and longer, and more alarming than before, also much nearer. Hearest thou, O Zarathustra?" called out the soothsayer. "The cry concerneth thee. It calleth thee. Come, 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 it is time. It is the highest time." Zarathustra was silent thereupon, confused and staggered. At last he asked, like one who hesitateth in himself, "And who is it that there calleth me?" "But thou knowest it certainly," answered the soothsayer warmly. "Why dost thou conceal thyself? It is the higher man that crieth for thee." "The higher man," cried Zarathustra, horror-stricken. "What wanteth he? What wanteth he, the higher man? What wanteth he here?" And his skin covered with perspiration. The soothsayer, however, did not heed Zarathustra's alarm, but listened, and listened in the downward direction. When, however, it had been still there for a long while, he looked behind, and saw Zarathustra standing, trembling. "Zarathustra," he began with a sorrowful voice, "dost thou not stand there, like one whose happiness maketh him giddy? Thou wilt have to dance, lest thou tumble down. But although thou shouldest dance before me, and leap all thy side leaps, no one may say unto me, Behold, here danceth the last joyous man. In vain would anyone come to this height who sought him here. Caves would he find indeed, and back caves, hiding places, or hidden ones, but not lucky mines, nor treasure chambers, nor new gold veins of happiness. Happiness. How indeed could one find happiness among such buried alive and solitary ones? Must I yet seek the last happiness on the happy isles, and far away among forgotten seas? But all is alike. Nothing is worthwhile. No seeking is of service. There is no longer any happy isles. Thus sighed the soothsayer, and with his last sigh, however, Zarathustra again became serene and assured. like one who hath come up out of a deep chasm in the light. Nay, 3 times nay, exclaimed he with a strong voice, and stroked his beard. That do I know better. There are still happy isles. Silence thereon, thou sighing sorrow sack. Cease to splash thereon, thou rain cloud of the forenoon. Do I not already stand here yet with thy misery, and drenched like a dog? Now do I shake myself, and run away from thee, that I may again become dry. Threat, mayest thou not wonder? Do I seem to thee discourteous? Here, however, is my court. But as regards the higher man, well, I shall seek him at once in those forests. From thence came his cry. Perhaps he is there hard beset by an evil beast. He is in my domain. Therein shall he receive no scath. And verily, there are many evil beasts about me. With those words, Zarathustra turned around to depart. Then said the soothsayer, Zarathustra, thou art a rogue. I know it well. Thou wouldst fain be rid of me. Rather wouldst thou run into the forest and lay snares for evil beasts. But what good will it do thee? In the evening wilt thou have me again. In thine own cave will I sit, patient and heavy, like a block, and wait for thee. So be it, shouted back Zarathustra, and he went away. And what is mine cave? And what is mine in my cave belongeth also unto thee, my guest. Shouldst thou, however, find honey therein, well, just lick it up, thou growling bear, and sweeten thy soul. For in the evening we want both to be in good spirits and joyful, because this day hath come to an end, and thou thyself shalt dance to my lays as my dancing bear. Thou dost not believe this. Thou shakest thy head. Well, cheer up, old bear, but I also am a soothsayer. Thus spake Zarathustra. So he's kind of having a verbal duel with this guy. And I don't think he's talking a metaphor, but that he did hear some sort of cry from a man, from some person. And the soothsayer says, oh, it's the greater man. You should go and help them. But when he was saying that it's the greater man, for some reason that spooked Zarathustra, and he got all like flustered and was all sweaty. And the man was like teasing him, saying, you should dance. You don't look like someone so happy, kind of, being in that kind of a state. But then he kind of played around with it. He twisted it around and says, I'm going out. I'll go find the man. And the soothsayer is saying, oh, you just want to go find him to be away from me. I'm going to sit here, and I'll wait for you. You won't be rid of me so easily. And Zarathustra's like, fine, go ahead. Go sit in my cave. Go eat my food. Go eat of my honey, and be joyful and be happy, because that's what we both want to be. I'll go and find this guy, and he's kind of like making a nudge at this guy that I'm also a soothsayer, and you shall be soothed by the things that I own. It's whatever. To me, it's silly, because it's just two people like so full of of themselves in some way, of their own ego, that it just seems silly. It's fine though. So, This is different, though, than other chapters where Zarathustra, he did say at one point to his followers at the end of Book 2 that he must leave them because something had dawned upon him, and he must go find it. And he went off alone, and he did travel the seas, and when he came back, he didn't come back to see his followers. He came back kind of stealthily, returned to his mountain, and he's just remained there for years. He was sick, apparently for 7 days, and then his animals were worried about him, that he would be dying, and Zarathustra was like, well, when I die, it will be like a sunset, and it will be golden, and it shall enlight so many around. I guess that's what he means by fire, where at a sunset, it seems like everything is on fire, but it's not. They're just glowing from that light when the sun goes down. And he pictures himself to be the sun that's going down. And he's just waiting for that time. But he's not longing for it. He's kind of just enjoying himself. But that's when that soothsayer appeared and said, it's today. The time is now. And there is this cry of some person. I guess we'll have to continue on to understand more of it. But I think we're good for now. For today, for us, we'll be sitting with the shade and letting him sleep until we've finally passed to the next day, so that way we can escape.